Here we go. He was born with an axe in hand, standing ready to defend the land. Went from cradle to the wall to see the foes of Neverwinter fall. When Valendra unleashed a scourge, he was there to perform the purge. From the bridges, gates, cliffs, and docks comes the legend known as Sergeant Knox. This former mercenary always retakes the city, unites us all with his rolling call. He's gonna knock you out, leave you seeing stars, gonna break your lies, leave you lasting scars. He's gonna knock you out, call the thunder down, gonna bring the hurt, driving death out of town. When the blessed absolute called, his answer echoed off the marble halls. If you're looking for a helping hand, keep an eye out for this giant man. Celeste will do the healing with Mako's damage dealing, and in the front on Knox is holding the line. He's gonna knock you out, leave you seeing stars, gonna break your lies, leave you lasting scars. He's gonna knock you out, call the thunder down, gonna bring the hurt, driving death out of town. Solo over this. Pow. Yeah. Gonna knock you out, leave you seeing scars, gonna break your life, leave you lasting scars. He's gonna knock you out, call the thunder down, gonna bring the hurt, driving death out of town. Gonna knock you out, gonna break your life. He's gonna knock you out, gonna bring the hurt, driving death out of town.
Distinguished adventurers, welcome to Idle Insights. I am not Todd Kenrick. I am here to have a fun interview, but Todd is on vacation, so it's me. You get Lauren Urban, the community manager for Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, and with me today is someone who helped bring you the Sergeant Knox that we just heard in the song from Bardic Inspiration. Randy Mossens, welcome to Idle Insights.
Hey, Lauren.
So,
Pleased to be here.
yeah, I'm happy to chat with you. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of D&D things, but specifically we're here to talk about the man of the hour, Sergeant Knox, the latest champion to join Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, but a stalwart in the Neverwinter game that has been out for quite a while. So you are the lead designer on Neverwinter, so you probably had a hand in Sergeant Knox, I would assume.
Yeah. I've been working on and off on Neverwinter since pre-launch, and Sergeant Knox became one of our focal points for adventurers who've come to the city of Neverwinter. He's the one who helped defend the city against the initial attack by Valendra and her undead army, and basically went on to be the liaison for adventurers that are new to the city.
Yeah, if people want to see a kind of an epic cutscene, watch the opening of Neverwinter, and Sergeant Knox was right there next to Celeste and Makos, and mowing down hordes of enemies. So that's kind of epic. So the question is, when you were trying to decide what champion to bring over to our game, was Knox just the obvious answer because of that?
Yeah, like I think most people who have played Neverwinter are well familiar with Sergeant Knox. He's kind of almost like a father figure, right? He's very he cares about the welfare of the city, and is very respectful towards adventurers and everything they do. And so I think he's a bit of a fan favorite. So it makes sense to port him over to Adult Champions.
Now, how involved were you with getting that porting from one game to the other?
I actually had a lot of back and forth. We discussed the background of Knox, with the visuals. Of course, our art director on the project helped, of course, get the various levels of the visuals of Knox and try to match them up as much as possible. We have a lot of Chris Dien is our concept artist that's been on the game forever as well, who provided a lot of the concept art we originally had for Knox as a reference as well. So I think that was a good back and forth.
Absolutely. And because Knox is kind of like you said, a liaison in the game. It's he's the character that your player characters go to a lot to say, "Oh, all right, I finished this quest. Where do I go next?" It it was probably a little easier to have a fully realized character to bring on over to Idle Champions.
Yep.
Was there anything that was key to Nox that you felt like this absolutely has to be in the game, or else this is not Sergeant Nox?
I think the main things with Knox, he has his iconic blue and silver armor, that he's been had very different variations of that throughout the game. Whether it was from the start of the game, he's also showed up in certain adventure zones as like a commander of military forces there as well. So he's often seen kind of mounted on there. So. But he's always had his armor. He has an axe, of course, is very important. The one you've seen in the trailer, and I guess just the kind of visual look. He had a very distinctive look. He has his eye patch and beard, and it's all those elements are kind of like key to his character. And we in the back and forth discussions with Idle Champions, we also incorporated some of his background into some of the items you get in the game too.
Yeah, the items are always a fun way to kind of explore character because the way you play Idle Champions isn't necessarily interacting with those characters directly a lot. So you learn a lot through all those various items. Was there a piece of gear beyond like the axe and his armor? Was there a piece of gear that isn't necessarily highlighted in Neverwinter that you got to highlight in Idle Champions?
Yeah, there was a couple of pieces. There was a memento that he got from Lieutenant Linkletter. If you played the game at all, that was one of the Neverwinter Guard that he had was fairly close friends with. He's Lieutenant Linkletter shows up in the tutorial, and later was actually transformed by spell plague energy into a spell plague creature. But there's a whole kind of saga about that. So and was sent to the chasm, and yeah, it was. Which is another area in our game that has a bunch of still active pocket of spell plague energy, and so he has a very good back and forth with Linkletter relationship, because they're all both kind of old veterans that have helped the city in the past, and so that kind of tells the relationship between those two, that link between them. There's also some mementos from his time as a Mintarn mercenary, and one of the big things is when Lord Neverember came to the city after it was pretty much destroyed by the eruption of Mount Hope. Now he came in with a large mercenary force. He hired a bunch of Mintar mercenaries, and Knox was one of those ones. And they helped clear out the city. And then when a lot of the mercenaries left, and there was just the Neverwinter Guard remaining, which is a mix of Mintar mercenaries that decided to stay behind and actual local Neverwinter locals that wanted to help defend the city. Sergeant Knox was one of the ones that decided to stay behind and help the city. So he's got a memento of his time with the Mintarn.
Oh, nice. And that's how he knows Celeste and Makos, correct? Is that time
defense
being,
of the city?
Yeah. And it, like I said, if you watch that opening cinematic, you get to see the three of them in action, and it's pretty epic. So it's interesting that you brought up bringing that lore in, because Neverwinter's been around for a while. It's from 2013, I think, on the PC. So you have a wealth of time to pull from. Was it hard to take a character that has been integral from the beginning, from 2013, and come up with, like, not a distillation, but a very clear, this is what we want, out of all of these years of content?
And I think we really focused on what was core to the character of Sergeant Knox, as opposed to necessarily all of the roles he played in the different adventure zones campaigns where he took on the role of a military commander type situation. We could talk about those things, but they're not necessarily what made Knox the person he is today. So we went really back into the back lore history of it, decided to focus on those elements and some of the early relationships in that he established within Neverwinter.
Nice. And while you were going through this process of bringing him over to our game, was there anything about Knox that you hadn't had a chance to really think about or hadn't figured out yet that you got the chance to discover about him?
I think I touched on it a little bit. It was more of his background with the Mintarn. We hadn't really been too explicit about that in the past. Like there may have been a kind of a lore entry, but it's something that we wanted to explore and expand upon a little bit. We might actually even start incorporating a little bit more into that. We want to put a little bit more focus on the kind of core Neverwinter heroes, which include Celeste and Makos, which I think are also within Idle Champions. It's part of the team I play when I play Idle Champions.
So let me ask then, because we have a pretty huge roster. It's getting bigger. It includes a whole bunch of champions from lore, but also from live streams and things. And so you've mentioned that formation that you've been playing with. Are there champions either in the game or not yet in the game that you're excited to see Knox in a formation with?
I think a lot of the strength that Knox provides actually goes well with the other Neverwinter heroes that are currently there, I'm just going to think back to some of the other synergies that you can have with the other heroes. I like some of the other fighter types, to form a front line with. There's a lot of the paladins and whatnot are really good up front with Knox. I think would be really good up front with Knox in that regard.
Yeah, and not just mechanical synergies, like role playing wise. Is there any fun characters that you're like, Knox would never get a chance to hang out with Mordenkainen? Mordenkainen is just is not a champion in our game, but like, is there a character, or like, are there any D&D live streams or anything that has a character that gravitates that you're like, I'd love for Knox to be able to knock heads with this person?
Interesting. If it's full open,
why not?
I think there are like I say, if he has a lot of respect for people that want to do good in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he kind of reaches out to adventurers. He sees they want to make the world a better place, and so other people that do that are things like very key characters like Elminster Omar, right? That would be. I'm going for the sky here. Elminster would be amazing to kind of team up with Knox, because Elminster's shown up in Neverwinter before. He helped with the during the whole Rise of Tiamat. He's part of the Tiamat trial. He actually does some major magic with the weave to turn things back in time if it fails against trying to stop Tiamat. And he also shows up in like a regular event in Neverwinter. I think that would be a great thing. Elminster's high level magic alongside Knox himself would be pretty cool.
So, if it isn't obvious to our listeners at home, you are a huge D&D fan. You
Yeah,
are an old school D&D fan. This isn't just a fun job. This is also a hobby and a passion. You're actually listed as the official lore master at Neverwinter,
right.
which is both self-explanatory, but also I have to ask. So is being the official lore master just sitting on a throne somewhere in the office and having people come to you with questions? Do you more seriously, do you have documents do you write? Are you the person that liaisons with Wizards of the Coast? Like, what does lore master entail?
Uh, Lore master is involves just a kind of a deep knowledge of all the history of Neverwinter and the Forgotten Realms, and just everything we've implemented in the game, like where the intents behind the characters, like the plot threads and everything. I worked on pretty much like a good chunk of the content in the game. And so I have like kind of a deep knowledge of that. But people always come to me when asking about how does this work in D&D, because sometimes we have people come to the project that are have done other types of fantasy but are less familiar with D&D, or specifically for the Forgotten Realms. And I basically go, well, either I know offhand, or I know it's like, oh, check this book reference. I think in this section it'll have the answer you need, right? And a lot of times I just kind of look things up myself. We have good access to like a wide library of the D&D, past and present. So part of that is just kind of knowing which books existed in each of the editions that may have the answers of what we're looking for. But from everything from what the horn shapes of the different dragon look like, to what are the different schools of wizardry. All right, that's all just stuff that we have to know and be able to communicate in order to be able to make these decisions. So I'm kind of the core of that, I guess.
Is it hard to walk the line of wanting to craft something unique, different, interesting, but also be true to existing lore? Because especially Forgotten Realms lore, there is a lot of it.
Oh yeah. Yes, there is. And it's kind of a balance. Like originally when Neverwinter was built, it was built around the fourth edition version of the realms, right? Because that's when fourth edition was the big thing when it came out. And over the years, we've tried to transition a bit more to the fifth edition storylines, and that's where like focus of our campaigns and everything. But Neverwinter is kind of its own animal too. It's like an interpretation of D&D. Like in regular D&D, we don't have action combat, but we do it in Neverwinter, right? And we also have some kind of, I guess, things we have to watch for in terms of constraints. Like a lot of times we do have parity with a lot of the modules that come out, right? Like we've done Ravenloft, we've done the Descent into Avernus campaign, etc. But sometimes when you look at this, it's like, oh well, they're going to Baldur's Gate, right? And we go, well, we don't have the assets to make a brand new city, right? But we do have other things like stronghold assets, so we can, for example, make a castle that is as being pulled, a stronghold that's being pulled down into Avernus instead. and build a story around that. And so, and we work with Wizards of the Coast all the times and say, what is the Neverwinter version of the story? They're great about it. Right? They're like, yep, you're kind of DMing your own game, right? As long as it's true to yes, this could happen in the realms. Usually they're great with it, right? So it's like, in a sense, it's sort of like being a DM for thousands and thousands of people all at once.
That sounds exciting and daunting and exciting, and being able to
Yeah,
have that kind of control over, I want to tell the story, but maybe move these elements around or not have
yeah,
to build an entire city, which as a DM myself, I totally empathize with. Although usually I'm just building out stuff in my head. I can't
yeah.
imagine trying to build out an entire city in a game. That's a lot. And it must be good for adventures like when Wizards of the Coast sends everybody to Chult, and it's like, well, here's a brand new landmass. So being able to
Yeah.
bring in elements here, there, and everywhere, but not do the exact story.
Right, exactly. And sometimes we've actually came pretty close to the main plot points and everything, but we inserted some of the Neverwinter heroes in that. Like a lot of times we will say, oh yeah, Makos and Sergeant Knox and Celeste, and we've introduced other characters recently, Etrian Sale and Ulrich Velenas as well. All these are kind of core Neverwinter characters that we kind of put in the main story and says, hey, these are part of our stable of characters that tell the Neverwinter perspective on the story. And it's good to have that as kind of a mainstay, because also the players are these Neverwinter heroes that are involved with these adventures.
That's awesome. You talked about feeling like you're DMing for everybody in the game. Do you have an office game? Does everybody in the office, or a lot of people in the office, actually play the tabletop D&D?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of different people that are involved in D&D games in some capacity. I actually run a Monday night game for the other leads on Neverwinter, and we're currently like midway through, but halfway through Descent into Avernus, so we're playing virtual. We started in the office pre-pandemic, but then of course had to shift to a virtual game. So I got to know my virtual tabletop games pretty well, the different platforms available.
That's interesting that you're playing through an official campaign. I was wondering if, like, all right, here's going to be my D&D game away from work. Would you go completely homebrew? But you wanted to do something right out of the book. Was there something about that specific adventure that drew you to it, or was working on part of it in the game inspiring you to play the tabletop version? How'd
Yeah,
that come about?
yeah, more of the latter. We were right in the middle of development on Avernus when it kind of kicked the game off. And actually previous to that, I was running a Ravenloft campaign when we were developing Ravenloft. So it's just more of a kind of a thematic tie-in. So people have a little bit more grounding into what the tabletop experience is like. So all the developers who don't necessarily do deep dives into the lore will get that understanding without having to have an interpreter to say this is what it means. These are the themes. These are the visuals associated with it, and we can just kind of point to it and say, remember. And I use like a lot of visuals in my games too. It's like, and it looks like this, and this is the kind of creepy music playing in the background and everything, that. I think that really helps us develop as a whole. So in a way, it's kind of like a way for us to really get into the mindset of what we're developing and kind of expand upon that.
And so, have there been times in where you've been playing over the tabletop and something happened in your game and that got somehow ported over into your development of Neverwinter? Were there moments or ideas?
Uh, I think there have been inspirations there, like
Mm.
not a direct one-to-one. I know in the past we've had developers that are like, this great thing happened in my D&D game. Can we at least import the character into this? Right? That I have this one character as my favorite character. Can we do this? And they're like, sure, why not? We need NPCs in the game. Why not have this? Like I remember one time, even with I think it was uh, in one of the northern zones, there was a wizard that uh, lived out in the middle of nowhere on the edge of the zone, and that was from my friend uh, Patrick Pogue's D&D character, right? And he says, and he was the one who was the environment artist on it, and says, I have this pocket on the edge of the zone here. I could just wall this off, but can we put my D&D character in here? And I was like, sure. What do you want us to do? It's like, well, he's just a really surly wizard, and he doesn't really want to have anything to do with people. So if people come near him, he'll teleport him away. And I was like, I can do that, right? And so yeah, I ended up teleporting you to random locations around the zone, like on top of towers or on top of these long ships, where the giant long ships, where these frost giants were like hanging around, and you're like, how do I get down from here? But
Go see this early wizard. Go explore a new area. That's
yeah,
just half the fun of a game like that. Just like, oh yeah, head over there to go somewhere else. You don't know where, but it'll be fun getting back.
right. It's those type of experiences that are memorable, and you remember them from tabletop games. And people who are developing the game, you find these things that, whether they're environments or just little side characters that tell their own story, and it's just interesting. It adds to the flavor. It makes it feel more immersive. So I think it's great when we do stuff like that.
Absolutely. Has the opposite happened? Have you been creating a character in Neverwinter? Has someone wanted to play Sergeant Knox in your D&D game?
That hasn't happened yet. In terms of the reverse, and I think it's mainly because people have these crazy concepts they want to actually test out, and so they usually come up with it with their own characters. We haven't really experienced the reverse yet, but I'm sure it may happen sometime.
I don't know. Maybe we'll get some new players and Idle Champions who are now going to want to at least do something similar to Sergeant Knox.
Yeah. Sergeant Knox adjacent.
Yeah. There's an appeal to that kind of fighter character because D&D has so many classes, and a lot of them have a lot of depth and are complex, or they're spellcasters and you've got the suite of spells. There is something, especially after you've played a spellcaster for a while, very appealing about, I just have a big axe and I'm just going to be in the front line swinging my big axe. And what do? You hit it with your axe. That's got an appeal to it on a visceral level.
Definitely. Yeah, I've been in campaigns where I've just wanted to do that. I was playing my friend Jesse's Dark Sun campaign. He actually did a full 5th edition conversion himself, and I played a half giant barbarian, and that was just a great catharsis. If it's like, oh, stressful day, I'm going to play my barbarian.
There you go. You weren't playing a Thrycreen while you were in Dark Sun? I mean, come on, you gotta be Mantis people.
That was my wife.
There you go. That's awesome. We got a couple questions from chat, so let me jump on over to those questions before we go back. So from Originals No, first off, loved the cloaked ascendancy story. Second of all, how do you feel about Black Lake and Tower District being vaulted? Doesn't that really impact Neverwinter now that the districts are gone? So kind of a more in the weeds question, but
right. Yep. Yeah. I'm glad you like cloaked ascendancy. I implemented that one myself, so I actually wrote the story for that. So yay. Yeah. The other districts within Neverwinter being vaulted. It's one of those things where in the leveling experience changes we wanted to pick up the ones that pick up the adventure zones that are really, one thing, looked cool, had a good continuity of the story, and just basically flowed well into each other, and it provided a good variety of different types of visuals and gameplay and creatures. So the vaulting of the zone doesn't mean they're gone forever. We just say, we're going to bring this back at an appropriate time where it makes sense, and that's where we do an update of it, or we convert them into our new adventures system. So our new adventure system is essentially is a wrapper around a bunch of stories that you can just play through once, and you get a special reward at the end. Right? So they may come back in that persuasion. It's always a balance where we try to figure out about well, do you want to bring up old content, or do you want us to make new content? And usually it's like make new content, but it depends if there's a space in there where we say, okay, this makes sense. We have time to do an adventure zone conversion on this thing. We'll do that. So really, the focus shifts in Neverwinter from the city into more of the Sword Coast and other planes. Since we've had Sharandar and Avernus and everything, who knows what would end up next?
Absolutely. And that brings up a question that I wanted to ask, actually, because this might be, at least for Idle Champions players and for a lot of D&D players, their introduction to Sergeant Knox, and that might get them interested in Neverwinter. Neverwinter's been around for a while, and it can be a little bit daunting to get into the game, especially a game that's been around for that long.
Right.
Do you have any advice that you usually give to people who are like, I want to get into your game, but holy mackerel, this thing is huge?
Well, and that's actually part of the, getting back to the whole level experiences changes we're doing with our M21 that's coming out soon.
TM.
Soon, TM, is that we wanted the players, especially players that are new to the game, would be able to come into the game and kind of work through a story that has a good conclusion over, and you got a good experience of different types of adventure zones. And by the end, when you get to level 20, because we also did a conversion from 1 to 80 to 1 to 20 as well. By level 20, you actually know everything that you need to know about the game. So it's much easier ramp into the game, and everything that is epic level content is pretty much post 20. You'll know how to get into that, and also, like, we've been doing things where if you want to get to the latest content, whenever we do a new release, we actually have a window where you can say, hey, you might not have the item level, because that's essentially how you level past 20 is increase your item level. You can still get into this higher level area and start earning the rewards, but within that window. So we're trying to make it much more accessible for people to come in and try the game. So much more shorter ramp to get to epic level content, and actually ease of access to get to the newest stuff.
Awesome. And I'll take that opportunity, since we're at the halfway mark and we've got some people coming in from Idle Champions. Welcome to Idle Insights. We're speaking with Randy Mossens, who is the lead designer on Neverwinter, which is where you can find Sergeant Knox, who is now the newest champion in Idle Champions. So welcome. We are currently talking about Neverwinter, but we were talking a bit about D&D. And if you do have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat. Our awesome moderator, Sasha, is in chat and is grabbing those for me. So I really appreciate it. And speaking of questions, Garwar wanted to know, we talked a bit about this before the stream, and those of you who were here at the beginning of the stream heard this song, but Garwar wanted to know, have you heard the Sergeant Knox song from Bardic Inspiration, and what did you think?
Yes, I did. When that was going on, I thought it was amazing. I think Julie, our community manager, put a link in our team chat at work, and as soon as I started listening to it, I thought, this is fantastic. This is great. He is kind of true one of the heroes of Neverwinter that helps all, and I think the song really reflects him pretty well.
And Jason Charles Miller is amazing, and the stuff that he comes up with weekly, like in 2 hours, him and Dylan just, here's a song, there you go, song done.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are always fun. Are there any other Neverwinter characters you would love to have songs written about?
Oh, yes. I would. Yes, all of them. Yeah, and all of the Neverwinter heroes. I like they've got their own. We have backgrounds written up for all of them, and we try to incorporate them into any content they show up in. One of the ones that I wrote was Makos. I would love to hear a song about Makos, and would happily work with anyone who wants to do a Makos song.
Makos is a favorite.
Yeah.
All right, more questions from chat. Luke McKay wants to know, we were talking about Sergeant Knox's equipment earlier, and so I think I know the answer to this, but I'm excited. Is there a story behind Sergeant Knox's axe? It's amazing.
Yeah, that is something that, again, it comes from his background of when he was part of the Mintarn mercenaries. So that is something that he acquired in his travels prior to coming to Neverwinter, and has kind of served them well through his travels and battles.
Does it have a name?
It does not, which we're going to rectify.
Ooh, spoilers. Nice. So Dylan is actually in chat and says that if you get us the lore about Makos, he'll make a song happen.
Fantastic.
There you go. You're on the hook now. Now a song has to happen. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then you can come and hang out and chat and help write the lyrics, because that's half of the fun of Bardic Inspiration, is being in the chat and throwing lyrics at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's a fun chat. Let's see. We've got Blip Blop Bloop wants to know, I'm a huge fan of the original Neverwinter Nights game. How much of the old story has come back?
It is there. We do some callbacks, but it is light. It's kind of in a different time period. We try to do like callbacks to the and this is where it comes out in a lot of the lore. Callbacks to the original rulers of Neverwinter, the Nasher Alagondar, the ruler of Neverwinter back in the day, and I think that's the main bits we do. We like to do more deep dives into that lore to try and bring back a lot of the story elements. This is all just part of Neverwinter's big past. So it's at the same time we're also trying to do parity with a lot of the Wizards of the Coast module development too. So it's a bit of almost like too much to choose from in terms of development. So, and sometimes we also want to do some original content like we did with Cloak and Sensi. So.
Yeah, that weird balancing act of there's too much, what do we pick from, what's the right way?
Yep.
Is that a similar thing? Like, we've talked a lot about module content with adventures, but there's also been stuff like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, books that have crunch content, that have subclasses and things. Are those things you're also looking to put into the game or have put into the game?
Yeah, a lot of those ones become inspiration for especially when they get into a little bit more of the monsters. We always look at what kind of cool monsters can we import into the game. But usually there are kind of, we look at the resource limits on what we can do. Humanoids are of course easier to do because they all use a similar rig. Even some humanoid types start getting different rigs because of the way they walk and move around. They have different stances and everything. So, like for example, we have to try and make sure any monsters we're porting over have to have a good bang for buck, right? Like of course we have a dragon rig, but we've been talking about doing an updated dragon rig so we can do more stuff with them, right? We've been talking about using like salamanders, right, in the game, right? Except of course the way they look and everything and the way they need to be rigged is very distinctive, and we have to try and make sure we get good use like other creature types that we're using. So getting back to the theoretical question, we mainly use the crunch books for mainly lore and monsters, I think, and inspiration for magic items too, actually, because sometimes we have some interesting thing that comes out of that.
Yeah, I can imagine
artifacts especially.
Yeah, I can imagine Van Richten's guide had some pretty neat inspiration for stuff. You were talking about rigging up humanoids, and the first thing I thought of was the bagmen. And it's like, well, okay, make that work. But looking at something like that and finding the right place for it too, because I'd imagine you don't want to just stick some of these horror themes in the middle of Neverwinter. You'd probably want to put them somewhere else and finding an appropriate place for some of these new creatures.
Exactly. And it's kind of true whenever we make a new module in Neverwinter, we really want to look at what's the best bang for a buck that is also thematic for whatever we're making, right? So with for example, when we worked on the Ravenloft, we at Ravenloft incorporated that into Neverwinter. Ravenloft had to do with, we wanted to get some of the elements. Of course, we wanted to expand upon vampires because Strahd Zarovich, but we also had witches in the game, right? The Barovian witches, and those were that's when we played around with some elements of, for example, flying in the game, right, where they actually like flew up and came down a bit, and it's flying is something that the Cryptic Engine supports, but not necessarily Neverwinter, because it was never built with that specifically in mind, because we were trying to do more of a grounded adventure type element. But in the Cryptic Engine also supported things like Champions Online, where we had superheroes and flying villains and everything. So we had a more of an expansive system there. But so we really got to think about where the best bang for the buck that we can use, and how it kind of fits best into our overall module we're developing.
So when a new book from Wizards of the Coast comes out, do you end up sitting down reading through it as the Neverwinter lore master, as a DM looking to run a game, as a player looking for inspiration? Like when you first crack open that spine, what's the top thing on your mind?
All of the above. I read a lot of role-playing game material, especially the D&D stuff, because I play and run multiple D&D games. So whenever I open that, I'm like, ooh, I just want to devour all of it and see what we can do. Oh, that's a cool player option. These are great monsters. I wonder if we can get them into Neverwinter. I'll have to tell the systems teams about these reward items. That might be a cool idea for this. Just across the board is just use every part of the book.
So you've mentioned some of the games that you're DMing for, but how many games are you in as a player? Like what's going on with your characters right now?
Oh, geez. So I play. I say with my characters. I'm playing in a couple of one-shot campaigns. Actually, my wife is running the Saltmarsh campaign.
Oh, nice.
Right, the Ghost of Saltmarsh campaign, and I have a character in there who is a Cleric of Umberly.
Oh,
so
okay, all right.
Yeah. And that's an interesting one to play because it's a grudging relationship between him and his deity, because he essentially was drowning at sea, and Umberly offered to save his life as long as he served her, and so he agreed, and so he follows the way and preaches the way of Umberly, even though he's like, yep, this is the way he's gonna go because I made that deal.
She's not necessarily the easiest patron to deal with. No. Has that character or your Saltmarsh crew gone full pirate, or are you still eschewing from going? Every Saltmarsh game I've ever heard of, eventually they just go pirate. So that's why I ask.
Yeah, there was a lot of pirate accents involved with a lot of the people, and I think we were starting to skew that way, but then we a lot of people started pulling back, saying, "Wait, a lot of, no spoilers really, but the main threat to Saltmarsh isn't as bad as we thought. Maybe we shouldn't go full pirate here."
Okay, yeah. And is that kind of you said that was a one-shot campaign because of Ghost of Saltmarsh. Do you have any other characters you're currently playing?
Yeah, there's another one who is a warlock of the Great Old One.
Oh.
Who's also fun to play.
You like picking patrons that are difficult to deal with. Those are two very interesting character choices.
Yeah, pretty much. And he is constantly speaking about the doom that's coming to the world,
Mhm.
so yeah, I can see a tendency. But I've also played in the Dark Sand campaign with my uh, half giant barbarian, which was a bit of a contrast between those other ones. So it's not typecast too much.
Well, I think we all have a preference. You know,
Yeah,
you sit down and we all kind of skew towards certain classes and certain lineages and all of that. And it's nice to play different things once in a while, but I have my own preferences. And every once in a while, when I sit down to make a new character, it's like, I haven't played a sorcerer. I really should. I want to play this Clockwork Soul sorcerer,
uh,
but there's like another cleric over there I really want to try. So yeah, getting away from our own preferences can be difficult sometimes.
definitely. Yeah.
And we've got some more questions from chat. Sly Ferris wants to know, oh, were you involved in the Eberron stuff in D&D Online back in the late 2000s? Was that something you played in or participated in?
Was not involved with that. The D&D online stuff. I was, I think I was involved with, geez, City of Heroes at the time.
Mm.
I think it was there. I was playing a lot of City of Heroes, and then I eventually came to work at Cryptic, like on City of Heroes. So I think that was my distraction at the time when that development was going on.
So you have worked on a superhero game and a D&D game.
Mhm.
If you had to describe what's the main difference between a superhero and a D&D character?
Oh, I would say level of power. Well, sort of. You say with the superheroes, you end up starting pretty powerful, and you end up becoming crazy more powerful, right? By the end, um, and with D&D, you still become extremely powerful, but you start off much weaker, right?
Mm.
So I think it's just really kind of the starting level, because when you have characters at the end of D&D campaigns, like where they're level 20 and they're casting wish spells and everything, it's you'd say, yep, that's as powerful as any superhero. But just when they're starting out and they've got like D4 hit points, or it's like, well, okay, oh, your first level is maxed out at 4, but
Mm.
you have no con bonus, so yeah. But yeah, so it's just you get those same level of super heroics by level 20 in D&D. You just start off with a little bit more power, I think, with superheroes.
It's just a wider gap
Wider gap, yep,
before you get to the point where you're a monk and basically unkillable.
pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. And so to bring it back in the last couple of minutes that we've got to Idle Champions, you've talked about some of the formations that you've been building and everything. A lot of the time when we have a champion in the game, we get a chance to deck them out in outfits and do all sorts of fun stuff. Do
Yeah.
you have any wishes for Sergeant Knox?
Oh,
I mean,
I
his
think
armor and his axe are really iconic,
they are.
but, you know.
Yeah, but we've been talking about potentially updating the look of Knox, like modernizing a bit. The And that may be something that we talk about more with the IL Champions folks about. Hey, here's a new visual. Here's a new skin for Knox on that. We've been talking about concepting actually each of the Neverwinter heroes in that way, and just kind of making sure they get a good treatment, since they are recurring characters, and especially Knox, who is central to a lot of to Neverwinter in a lot of respects. So yeah, I think getting that modernized look of Knox out, I think would be great. Potentially expanding out his background a bit more, like we've been discussing earlier, and actually having more items from his past, either in the defense of Neverwinter, or with the Mintarn mercenaries, just kind of expanding that background of Knox, and seeing those items show up in Idle Champions would be cool.
So, out of curiosity, when you talk about modernizing his look,
Mhm.
can you be a little more specific about what you're talking about? Because I mean, obviously, we're not talking about putting him in army fatigues
Right.
and
Yeah.
a suit.
Um, we've well the we've got a specific kind of art look for him. A lot of times, when we updated characters, they had a lot of times they were taken from existing pieces of armor sets that we had during development. And as we've gotten new armor sets, we've been kind of updating them. But we wanted to kind of give him his own unique look, right? To make him a little bit more distinctive, and not just a Neverwinter soldier, but no, this tells more about his history, and he's got his own distinctive style. So
He went to an armorer and commissioned something specifically.
yeah, he's saving up his money that he's gotten for working for Neverember. He still hasn't cashed in his promissory note yet, but
You hold on to that for a while. Sometimes those promissory notes, they become way more important the longer you hold on to them.
exactly.
Yeah. Finally, get an upgrade for that axe and get a name for the axe.
Yeah.
So, for those who would like to learn more about Neverwinter or Sergeant Knox, or you, where's the best place for people to find out more?
I think the main thing is play Neverwinter. Right? Neverwinter is the you can log in. It's a free to play game. You can just install it, play through the tutorial, and then all of a sudden you'll be face to face with Knox himself. So
Yeah, Knox shows up pretty quick. Also, I have to say, I'm looking at chat right now, and they are enjoying the idea of Knox in a variety of onesies. A bunny onesie, a unicorn onesie, a dragon onesie. Apparently, they want Knox to be comfortable. Everyone is requesting comfort for Sergeant Knox. I mean,
yeah,
he is the
I want to
defender.
see fan art of this.
There you go. We need fan art of Sergeant Knox relaxing in his unicorn onesie, enjoying some tea or coffee, and I love it. I want to see it. A make us onesie. Everybody just wants all your characters in a onesie, apparently. I mean, onesies are awesome, so we'll keep that in mind. But definitely go check out the game. So it's available PC, Xbox, PlayStation, right?
Yep. That's correct.
And yeah, go check out Sergeant Knox, and then for Neverwinter fans who want to come on over to Idle Champions, definitely check him out in the game and all of the other all of his companions, and stick them all in the same formation and go on some awesome adventures together. And do you have a presence online, or are you just enjoying being the lore master behind the scenes?
My days are usually pretty busy. I am on. I do review the Neverwinter forums a lot. So if you have any comments or questions, please kind of post them there. If I don't see them directly, usually Julie, our community manager, points me at them. So yeah, that's and I can see what we can do about answering your questions.
And she's been in our chat answering questions as well. So thanks for joining us. Thank you to our moderator, Sasha, for helping out in the chat and bringing along questions. And thank you, Randy, and everybody at Neverwinter for all of your help and assistance and bringing us the joy of Sergeant Knox. This has been so much fun. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we're going to go out listening to another Bardic Inspiration tune because a while ago, Jason Charles Miller and Dylan Wilkes wrote a song about Neverwinter. So we're going to go out on that. Stay tuned. In a couple of minutes, we're going to have developer insights. So you'll have David and Justin answering all of your developer questions. Definitely ask about every onesie that you can. Let's see if we can get all the characters in unicorn onesies. That's my gift to the next stream coming on up. So anyway, we'll see you next encounter. Bye.
See ya.
Soaked by winter rains, I stumbled to the gate, seeking out my fortune. I was running from my fate, walking after sunset, searching for the love Neverwinter night. Neverwinter dreams. Always shining bright. Never what it seems. He stood there before me, and I wandered down the street among a bed of flowers in the garden that he keeps. He smiled as I walked up. My heart had skipped a beat, like a moth to a flame. I was drawn to the heat of Neverwinter night. Neverwinter dreams. Always shining bright. Through the darkest dreams. In a city that's still here, the sky says I'm kind. Going home together, futures intertwined. Here's what the solo is, I think.